We live.
Hi everybody. Okay, we were live na pala. Okay.
Oo.
Hello. It's just us hanging out. Okay, no worries.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hello everybody. If you're here now, this is Kilig Cafe. Hi, Doc Angelie. This is Kilig Cafe.
Hi,
On our
Angie.
YouTube channel. This is romance class, and we have been hanging out here on our different channels, uh, doing panels, talking about stuff. And it's actually a nice way to get to see our friends again. And I'm glad that we're here in all kinds of weather. Hello, everybody. So let's just wait for like a little bit to say hi to people before I start. But this is the session about beta readers and editors. So you're seeing on the screen our favorite um, beta readers and editors. Yes, here in Romance Cast. I'm gonna ask them to introduce themselves later and talk about what they've been writing and what they've done beta reading for and what they've edited. Pero before that, introduce ko muna yung concept of what we're going to talk about and why it's important. Romance Class, if you're not familiar, is a community of Filipino authors writing romance in English. We include in the definition of community everybody who's reading the books, everybody who helped make the book. And one of the essential parts of making the book is the stage where after a writer is finished with their manuscript, usually somebody in the community, gets to read and give feedback on the story. And that's required if you want to be considered a romance class author. When you write your romance book, somebody in the community is supposed to read it and give feedback and hopefully edit it also. Uh, and we consider that a huge, huge part of what we do and why, if anything about our books has an impact or if they're meaningful to anyone at all, I think it's because of this stage and these people because you allow people to give you feedback if you're an author and to make the book better in so many ways. So let's talk to three of the people who actually do that for for all our books and well for an intersection of our books that they can talk about that later. So we have here on our panel Carla, KV, and Layla. Uh, let's start with Carla.
Yes po. Hi, guys. My name is Carla de Guzman. I am an author and sometimes beta reader for different books in romance class. So my latest releases are How She Likes It, which is published with Carina Press, and How She Likes It, and Sweet on You. So yeah, I'm a romance author from the Philippines, and I write contemporary romance mostly. And almost all the time, my books have been edited by Layla and better read by KB. So they're like my power couple. So yeah.
Andito pala yung
Um
team mo. That's great.
yeah, my team's here na eh. So
Thank
yeah.
you. How about next, KB?
Hi everyone, this is KB. Thank you, Romance Class, for having me. First time ko dito. And I think the important thing to know about me is that I'm a reader. So, nag-start ako as a child. And then, ayun, hanggang ngayon, tuloy-tuloy. And then, I've been involved with Romance Class since 2014, 15, 16. So I love reading them. I love working with them. So yes, and also I'm Army. Hello sa mga Army friends in the chat.
It has to be mentioned,
Iron.
yes.
Awesome. We'll talk about the books that they've done and the projects that they've done more later. So next up, Layla.
Hi, thanks, Mina. So, hello, everyone. Thank you for joining this hangout session at the Kilig Cafe. So, my name is Layla Tanjutco, and I've edited a lot of romance class books. Siguro, more than 20 na. Parang ganon. My first editing project was actually with Nina on her Interim Goddess of Love trilogy. So, Google tells me it was originally published in 2012. So, ganun nakatagal. Wow. And
Thanks,
so, for
Google.
some reason, yes, thank you, Google. And so, for some reason, she liked what I did back then. So, she spread the word around to other authors. And here we are, 20 plus books later with many other authors.
Thank you, Layla. In more ways than one. So yeah, so
Aww.
so this is just a like three of the people who would do beta reading or editing for you if you're in romance class. And when we start talking about uh when we thanks friends
Thanks,
when we
girl.
start
True friend,
when we start
Denise.
talking about the process and what beta reading is and what they do when you ask them to beta read or edit, I would like to say that uh, this is something that you can probably find useful even if you're not writing a romance class book or you're not in romance class. It's just, I think, a good way to get critique and feedback for anything that you're writing, any genre. Nagkataon lang that we focus on romance and this is the process that we do, but you know, this might be useful for you even if you're writing another genre and you can just find people with similar qualifications and recreate that process. So let's start with our first question. So, what is beta reading and how is it different from editing? I'm going to ask people to answer in the same order that I asked them to introduce themselves. So let's start with Carla. So for example, if you were to be asked to beta read, how different would that be? How different is the thing you would do if compared to say you knew that you were editing something?
Right. So, when I beta read something, I try to, as much as possible, um, I like to pretend that it's already a finished book and I'm enjoying it as a reader. So, sometimes authors have guide questions on like what they want specific feedback on. So sometimes there's a guide to which parts made you happy, which parts didn't you like, and on. But then other times it's just okay. Can you read my story and what did you think? When I beta read, it always parang I try to do my very first impressions of the story overall versus editing where I feel like depending on what kind of editing you're getting, it really goes into the nitty-gritty of the book more than a beta read would. So personally, I think a lot of beta reading is your first impressions on the work, unfinished or finished already. And I like KB does this thing that I am copying now where she points out the parts she liked the best, or well, this is specifically for romance, but she likes pointing out the parts that she felt the kilig the most. And sometimes I do that as well kasi gaya-gaya ako eh. Sorry girl. Pero yun. Yeah, so generally beta reading is first impressions of someone who would possibly read a finished version of your book, versus editing, which is a lot more technical. Again, depending on what kind of editing you're hiring the person for. Yeah.
Thank you, Carla. So medyo na-reveal ng konti na yung process ni KB.
Yeah,
how,
sorry.
how about, yeah, How about KB?
Madali ako
You
manggaya
mentioned
eh.
now, yon. What do you do? What do you do for what is data reading for you, and how is it different from editing?
Dito, Char. So, I think the
Ako
difference
copy-paste na lang
between
po.
beta and editing ay skill level and expertise dun sa genre that you're reading. And ang daming tamang points ni Carla. She was right about reacting to things that you like or you enjoyed, but also if you think something is concerning or problematic, then you also try to raise that to the author or the writer. And you don't, as a beta reader, you don't necessarily provide suggestions. You just generally react to things. But when it comes to editing, it's very, yun nga, nitty-gritty. Kailangan tignan mo siya as a whole and in parts and in sections. So, does the story make sense? Is it vivid? Is it saying what it's trying to say? And are the things that should be highlighted? So there are so many things that come into play, and I think Layla will have more things to say about the difference between the two. English, I love it. Thank you.
Thank you for that wonderful question.
Ayan. Is it my turn? Okay.
Thank you.
Ayan. So copy paste from Carla and KB. But
Layla, yeah. Okay, you're up next.
yeah. So ayun, copy paste lang. But actually for me, no, because I've done both. I've actually better read something for Carla, yung Sweet on You, di ba? And some other books. um, so for me, beta reading kasi is you look at something that's very specific. For one assignment that I did, it was an FF book, so I wasn't asked to edit it, but I was asked to beta read it for the romance elements, just to check, if it has the romance class brand of Kilig. So that's um, that's what I did for that book. So for editing naman kasi, yun nga, nitty-gritty, and you have to, aside from highlighting the things um, that are good, you also highlight the things that can be improved, and you suggest changes. You make corrections on wherever kailangan. So, but sa beta reading kasi, yun nga, tama si Carla, it's impressions. It's actually, it's your way as an author of testing the waters. Not, you wanna get the impression, you wanna get the feedback from someone, from your target audience. So, let's say you're writing this book for a certain type of audience, you ask someone from that particular demographic to read your story. Or halimbawa naman, if your story contains certain elements um, specific to, say, a profession or a lifestyle, you ask somebody who knows something about that, who's lived that experience, to beta read your book, to say, oh, does this sound right? Does this sound, truthful? Does this sound authentic to the experience that you've had? Not to say naman that all experiences of a certain thing are the same, but it's kind of like asking if, is it plausible? Has this happened? Is this possible to happen? Ayun. I think that's the shortest definition that I can give.
Hey,
Hello, sweet on you. Ayan. What's that? Oh!
Oh, it's Layla's book.
I know. May technical problems yata si Nina.
Oh no. Okay.
Oh no. Yes. Ayan.
Oh, she's gone. Okay. Let's just talk about change na entirely ang topic ng conversation.
So I just wanted to add na you can be both, like what we all
Yeah.
do, and then you
Yeah.
can before you go to, well, you can't be an editor without having gone through the beta reader part, diba? Kasi it will help you
She's back.
learn more things. Yay! Welcome back, Nina.
Oy! Sorry, my internet being exactly the way it is. And okay lang kasi I'm the least important person in this panel. So, so pwedeng mag-usap lang kayo kahit wala ako. But yes, please, thank you for
Baka
continuing your
BTS lang
conversation.
pag-usapan namin.
Mag-change entirely yung topic if nawala kami.
BTS lang
Okay.
pag-usapan.
So I wanna thank people pala who are in the chat. Hello, friends, and thank you for
Hi,
being here.
friends.
If you have questions about beta reading and
Yeah.
editing, you can leave them in the
We
chat,
have na in the chat.
and we can get to it later. And then maybe other questions also, if you have other questions for our panel.
Just anything. Nothing too spicy, but saktong spice lang.
Walang mata, promise.
Okay, let's move to the next question. When someone asks you to beta read their manuscript, what's your process like? So can you mention, like, let's say you're going to be approached to do a beta read. How would someone do that? What's the best way for somebody to do that? And any tips you have? Let's start with Carla.
No, in my experience as a beta reader, it's more often than not that an author would have guide questions for me when they ask me to beta read. And I like guide questions; they're super helpful. Just so I know what you want to know about the manuscript in its current form. So usually when I start beta reading for someone, I'm asked like what parts did you enjoy the most? Which part did this certain plot device become effective, or was it not helpful? Ganon. So I usually try to answer those questions after I read the book in its entirety, and then once I do that, parang I kind of process my thoughts first. and then I send an email answering the guide questions, and then again taking a book from KB's process. I have like, okay, these are the parts that I really 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 liked about it. Ganito, 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 ganito. And maybe we can improve on this part. Usually it's shorter kasi like the authors I beta read for are so good. So yun, that's basically it. It's a lot of flailing, like feelings, like this part, oh my god, this part, ha ha ha, that made me laugh so much. Ganon. I remember in particular when I beta read Waiting in the Wings for Tara Freyas, I was like, girl, justice for Pio Alves, please. And that's how I became the first president of the Pio Alves fan club. Anyway, so yun. So yeah,
The first president talaga, yes.
President. I claim my title willingly. Pero na-unseat na ako ng so many other people who love him. So yun. Yeah, it's fun kasi I enjoy beta reading the most when it's for friends kasi it's like you're getting a sneak peek of their book already, and it's so easy to just talk about what you like about it, and usually there's a lot to like about it. But yeah, pinaka helpful for me when an author has guide questions, so para mas controlled yung flailing ko. Basically. Ayun.
Or mas useful flailing,
Yeah,
if you have.
flailing. It's very hard to control it.
Okay, that's great. KV, how about you? What's the process for getting you as a beta reader?
First of all, ang reaction ko, oh my God, me? Why me? Tapos, meron akong self-doubt konti. Tapos, because I work mostly online, so people get to me via email or Twitter or Messenger. So, wow, lahat. Open lahat ng DMs ko. Guys, slide in. So, anyway, so I have a process kasi I do get paid for services, and later on I will talk about this, like getting paid for beta reading, because it's not a it's not usually a paid service, but yun. So since I get paid for my services, I do provide. Thank you, Denise. So because I get paid for services, I have come up with some kind of a structure. So yun, para medyo ano naman, maayos. So I ask, and this is also an advice from my editor friends, including Layla here, na you ask people if their manuscript is finished. Although I do naman alpha reading and accountability body. Tina, thank you, Kilig. But there you go. So I ask for the finished manuscript if it's a go for beta reading, not for alpha reading. And then guide questions, as Carla mentioned. And then very important, the timeline. Because sometimes I would accept more than I can take, Char. Pero it's because I'm just, wow, super, because I really am a reader more than I am a writer or anything else. So reading always excites me, and I would almost always say yes to any beta reading invite. So I need the schedule or the deadline for the feedback, para in case that the writer is planning to submit to an editor, then I can make it to that date and not ano wag kong sirain yung kanyang buhay basically. Ayun. Thank you.
Thank you, KB. I think there was a question about doing more than one manuscript at the same time. Can you mention a little something about that? Like how would you actually work on more than one?
So I do accept multiple manuscripts, but I read one at a time kasi it's impossible to track every conflict. Tapos syempre yung conflict may sub-conflict pa. Para siyang family
Right.
tree of conflicts. Tapos yung characters na sino na ba, kailangan ko siyang i-drawing. And that's why sometimes when I review or read something, like I would journal about it just to remind me that this was the story and this was the thing that you liked about this book. Kasi minsan it's hard to keep track. But because I work with authors that I also read and support very much, so I kind of have a familiarity or are familiar with the way they write. So kunyari si Carla, like I know what to expect. It's always heat level 3, Char.
I know.
So alam ko na kung anong expect ko, and it's always it's enjoyable for me to read multiple kasi it helps you point out things sa isang manuscript that one manuscript is doing so well. So parang it's I don't do beta reading because I'm good at it. I do it because I want to learn more about the writing process and I want to be smarter as a reader. So that's why I do it, and that's why I just keep accepting stories. And I love secret projects. Beta reading usually are secret projects. So parang ano tong nasa email? Ooh.
Bakit may nag-email yung taong to in all caps sa akin? Mga ganun.
Diba? So it's very exciting for me. Like every email that I get, every project, every story that I read is super special to me. And I'm not just char-charing here. Wow. Verb ba yun?
Talaga, every single one.
Yes, every single one. To be fair, wala pa akong nakakatrabahong not special. Char.
Right.
So, nakailang char na ako dito. Drinking game, let's go!
Okay.
Thank you, KB. Layla,
Thank
how about
you.
you? If someone were to get you as a beta reader, what process would that entail?
First, I will ask for payment in chocolate. Joke lang.
Uy,
Grabe
Or
siya.
it happened. It
true
happened.
story.
It has
It did.
Uh-huh.
happened.
True
Yeah, true
story.
story.
Yeah, with Carla. No,
Nalaglag na naman
okay.
ako. Ano pa yan?
Uy, bakit ako nga nahin? So, ayun. Email lang, sabihin. Tapos gusto ko rin yung sinabi ni KB na it's like a secret that like, oh my God, I get to see it before anybody else does. And it's super cool. So, that's why I love it. I love doing it also, including editing. Kasi you get to see it at an early stage and you get to squee about it, but also in secret, in your heart lang. You can't post it on the um so what I do is when I get the manuscript, I send it to my Kindle. So ayun nga, because there's the thing about reading it as if it were a finished book already. So and also I'll see how it looks like on the screen, and how it basta parang how it flips through. Um and then sometimes I highlight passages on Kindle um, that I would like to uh, go back on or comment on. Um, and I before I email the author, I usually let things ruminate. Same with ano naman, same with editing. Like before I start editing, I just read it in one go and then let it ruminate. Don't touch it for a bit. Tapos when I've gathered my thoughts na, that's when I email the author, or that's when I start editing and put in my comments. So ganun. Especially if they have guide questions, yun, I pay particular attention to that. So na-mention ko nga kanina yung FF book na Ruben's class elements yung pinapacheck sa akin. And then, yung kay Carla naman, yung Sweet on You, I remember what she said specifically was, this is my love letter to romance class. So can you please check if it sounds like a love letter to romance class? So, yeah.
That's nice.
Imagine years
And very
ago.
specific. Yeah. Yeah, so like they
Yes!
said, yeah. So like they said, sometimes when at least the way that we ask authors to do it, if you get the romance class textbook, it actually has at the near the end a checklist for authors if you're going to engage a beta reader, and it does include like what exactly do you need. You have to mention what you need, and you have to be specific, because sometimes you can't just give a beta reader your manuscript and and have
And go.
nothing attached to it, and and just
Tell me
say,
what
is
you
it
think.
good or like, is it good or not? No. You will encounter it. You will get the best results as an author if you approach people because of how because of what you know about them, or specific things that you know they do well, or things that you know they're familiar with. And yeah, if you notice nga, the the comments just here from people who have worked with KB, with Layla, with Carla, it's they know there's a familiarity in the work that they do, and also with everyone else's work. So there's that perspective na they can give feedback, uh, not just on the thing you've given them, but how it connects to
Correct.
other books, or how another book did it, or how another author did something, or what another secret project is doing. So it's it's that awareness. So that's nice. So even if you're not working with these particular beta readers, or you're working on a different genre of book, ideally you find a group of people who have that same knowledge of what it is you're trying to do.
Right. Can I just also
Yeah.
say na parang one thing that happened because nagkataon siguro for ilang consecutive projects na si KB yung nagbe-beta read for me. And she pointed out things na parang I noticed that as an author you're progressing this way. Na personally
Huh.
I would never
An
realize that this was
evaluation.
happening. Yeah. Like si ma'am.
Performance evaluation.
Yung performance evaluation si ma'am. Na parang I
Okay.
feel, well, personally, like, hindi ako very reflective about parang, am I progressing as a creative person, ganyan, ganyan. Pero it's just nice that someone noticed when you're trying to do something. And,
True.
because KB's been reading my books, my secret projects for so long. Like, she sees something na parang I would never have noticed myself. Or like a reader would maybe not have told me. Yun. Wala lang. Thanks, KB.
Thank you,
Cool.
Carla. Sweet. Ang sweet on me.
Yes.
Girl.
Next question, please. Do you need both a beta reader and an editor before publishing a book? Why? Carla, what would you say about this?
I say yes. Because okay, I'm going to give a specific example. Kasi what happened with me and Karina Press was that I was assigned editors who are not Filipino. So what had happened was yeah, um, the 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 editors would not notice things that a Filipino beta reader would have noticed. For example, for Sweet on You in particular, kaya ako biglang nagpa-Hail Mary, Layla, please better read my book. It's because I was told that I was going to get a non-Filipino editor, and it kind of worried me because I did not want to compromise on the Filipino-ness of the book, and I was worried that if I got an editor who is not Pinoy, that I might miss something. I might say something that's wrong. I might have written something that an editor who doesn't know the context would miss. So in that particular situation, it was essential for me to get Layla and KB to do the beta reading. So in the second book, that's exactly also what happened. Guys, my deadline is on this day. Can you finish before then? Yeah, but that's a specific situation. But yes, in that particular case, yes, you would definitely need both. I think Layla mentioned before that it's also beta readers can also be of the same lifestyle or the same job as the person, as the character that you're writing. And again, they would know things that you as an author would not know or an editor would not know and would miss. So yun, that's the most like biggest reason why you have to get both.
Mm-hmm. KB, what would you say as someone who does a lot of this?
Yes, we need the racket. Char.
Money, please.
A practical girl.
Oo, kailangan natin ng racket. So yes, both beta and editor. So, kasi kailangan mo ng lahat ng help that you need to make sure that your manuscript is in its best version before you go and publish and share it to the world. And then sometimes authors would decide to go straight to editor, and that's fine. But beta reading is important because it will help the editor and you as well. It will help train you to identify kaagad bago ka pa mag-submit dun sa editor. Tapos babawasan mo pa yung sakit ng ulo ng editor mo if you go through the beta reading process and then the editing. So yes, I would say yes.
Thank you, KB. How about you, Layla?
Of course, my answer will always be yes. You need both. For one thing, you need all the eyes, all the help that you can get to make your manuscript or your book better or the best, diba? The same is also yung sinabi ni KB. Sometimes people go straight to the editor, but sometimes also people have this impression that having a beta reader is enough, and that they can self edit. Sure, yeah, they can self edit, but um, having an editor, a professional editor who can look at your work and show you the things that needs to improve, or the things um, that are good and that you will carry over to your next manuscript is very important as well in your growth as an author. So kailangan mo ng beta reader for the specific things that for your target audience, diba? But and an editor will help you, because the beta reader will not be able to um, tell you what changes you need to make. That's not a part of their job. Um, they're not supposed to make suggestions, or well, they can, but it's essentially an editor's job to show you the specific parts where you can make changes or you can make improvements on your manuscript. So what the beta reader tells you, the editor will help you make those improvements or changes in your manuscript. For me, whenever I work with an author and I find out like KB is the beta reader or someone else, I usually ask the author if they can share the beta reader's comments to me, because
Mm-hmm.
we're just human. We make mistakes, we can miss things. So I want to see also the perspective coming from a beta reader. So that's also very important for me as an editor, to see what the reader thinks. Ayun. Especially if the reader is as widely read as KB. Yeah,
Yes.
that's why it's very essential,
Talagang
important.
oo, important.
Oo.
Yeah.
Kailangan yung beta
Uh,
reader mo widely read and reads in the
In the
genre
genre, right?
of your manuscript. Kasi
yes.
halimbawa, ako, if you're gonna ask me to beta read a sci-fi, I'm gonna say no because I don't usually read the genre, diba? So mahirap yon because I will miss a lot of things. I also don't edit sci-fi because I don't read sci-fi or
Right.
spec.
You can grammatically correct someone's work, and
Yeah,
it's not the same kind of editing that you actually need.
yes, I
Mm-hmm.
can do yung grammar things, but the world building is different. I mean, romance world building in romance is different from world building in any other genre. So you have to
Okay.
make sure your team is getting
Dagdag ko
ano,
lang.
yes.
Dadagdag ko lang here for this section na sometimes actually, especially if you're self-publishing, sometimes an editor that you want to work with, they will require that you have your manuscript beta read first. Like sometimes an editor want uh, will only work with you after somebody else has gone through the manuscript and given their comments on it. So sometimes depending on who you want to work with as an editor, they might actually make the situation happen, and you will end up working with a beta reader and an editor. Definitely, that's happening a lot because nga, that first stage helps an editor so much.
Yeah.
It's just easier on everybody, and everyone's thinking of the reader, so everyone's doing this so that the reader can have the best experience with your book. Yeah,
Yes.
and I think we started talking about this, so I want to pull up the next question because I think our comments are heading over there. Uh, our last question is, what should an author consider when looking for a beta reader and an editor? So Carla, what what should an author consider when looking for somebody?
Okay. Mm, for beta readers, we've mentioned this a couple of times now, but it's really the number one. I guess the number one thing is that you want a beta reader that is widely read in your genre. Um, Especially if you're writing something specific, like let's say a mystery or a romance, and there are certain things that a person who doesn't read the genre would not know, like like conventions of the genre. Perhaps if the person better reading for you doesn't really read it, hindi nila alam yun. But that's different from getting a beta reader with specific knowledge in a particular field. Yes, thank you, sir. Um, ano, for example, let's say with Sweet on You, I actually had, with my new book, A Match Made in Lipa, the main character is a chocolate maker. So I actually had my sister, a chocolate maker, beta read the book for me, alongside asking KB and Layla to beta read the book for me. Because there are things in their field, there are things I talk about in her field that Layla and KB might not know. So those are some of the considerations for your beta readers. For an editor, again, we've mentioned this earlier, but it depends on what kind of editor you actually need. Um, Layla can go into this deeper, and I think she has in several other talks here on the Romance Class channel. There are line editors, there are dev editors. What's the other kind? Copy editors. Thank you. And they all have different functions when it comes to improving your manuscript. So of course, you want the best people to work on your manuscript. So knowledge in the genre is like the most basic requirement. If you're handing your manuscript over to someone who has never read a romance, they are probably not the best person for it. So yun, for me, that's the biggest consideration for both editor and beta reader. Yeah. You guys can talk about
Thank you, Carla. Thank you, Carla. How about you, KB?
Ayun, dito ulit. Copy-paste na lang. But yes, skills. And tama si Carla that there are so many kinds, hindi naman so many kinds of editing, but you have concept, you have developmental, you have copy, and then after all of that, you go through proofreading. Sometimes people would ask for line editing, as in sobrang busisi na pati yung word choice and everything. So depende yun sa author. And I think aside from skills, you really have to find a beta reader and an editor who has a lot of patience and so energy. Gusto ko yung so energy kasi so energy ako eh. But and you also have to possess some kind of chemistry with each other kasi for me especially, I don't want a strictly business relationship. I want, because we're reading a story, we're reading creative work, and there's so much of us being put into that, and it's not just business. So parang we need to have some kind of level of understanding na ganito kapag if I scream about this, like internal screaming lang naman. So the author would also understand. And then when I point out, like when I do the editing myself, when I point out something, they would understand why I'm pointing it out because they also know the kind of work that I do. So I think it's important that yun nga, chemistry, that you know each other, you know the person you're working with, and aside pa yan sa mga skills, and that yun nga, they have patience and they have energy to accommodate your sometimes never-ending questions like, ano ba dapat kong gawin dito? Maganda ba to? Yun nga sabi ni Tara in the comments kanina, kilig ba to? Or like especially for romance class, or pag ibang genre, does this make sense? Does it answer a requirement of the genre? So yun yung mga dapat i-consider ng author. But I just also want to jump in na kung ang author ay may criteria for judging for their beta readers and editors, so kami rin meron. I've mentioned kanina na I usually work with people that I've read, but I'm not also closing my doors to new authors because that's how we learn. And of course, we always want to support incoming or upcoming authors or writers. But there when you're starting out, like when you're a beta reader, you should be in a place where you understand what your work is supposed to be. So yun nga na mention kanina ni Layla, if somebody with a sci-fi manuscript comes to you and then you just readily accept it without having even read one sci-fi novel in your life, so magkakaproblema. You also have to um, filter or screen, yun nga, may HR process na tayo dito, di ba? Kasi um, hindi ka pwedeng accept ng accept, tapos you don't know what you can give or contribute. And in a way, then editors and beta readers have to constantly update themselves, like study, read more, attend workshops. Like as I said before, we don't know everything. So beta readers and authors should also be careful in hiring like beta readers and editors in general. Like kasi 'di ba sa Facebook groups meron kang nakikita na, oh, I offer these services. So it's so easy when you're kind of desperate to have your work read and you just hire anybody. So you also have to do your research about the person you're hiring to read or review your work. Bow.
Thank you, KB.
Applause,
There's
applause para kay
applause.
ma'am.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes,
Uh,
Katie.
how about
She said it.
I wanna add to that, but uh, I'll have Layla answer first para hindi tayo ma-distract. Layla.
um, so in the process of auditioning your team, so I say audition because it really is sort of an audition. You have to ask your prospective team um, for their it is a recruitment process, Tina. You're correct. You have to ask them what books have they worked on, sinong authors ba ang nakatrabaho na nila. One great tip from an author, from Dawn Lanuza, is to check your favorite books. Like for instance, your favorite romance class books, and see who worked on them, and if 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 you like those kind of books, then maybe that team that worked on that book will be also your team that could work with you on your book. So if you're working on a similar, you know, on a similar story, or like a tone. So you ask your prospective team for what they worked on. So talagang may audition process na titingnan mo um, ano na ba yung mga ginawa nila. Because yun nga, you have to see the background if they're really fit for working on your particular book, on your particular um, genre. So, ayun lang naman. And tama naman si KB na it's like it's so easy for people to say like, oh, I can edit your book. I'm good at grammar, ganon. Siguro, or mataas yung grades ko sa English nung nung sa school. So magaling ako sa English, and I can do editing. That's not automatic. You it requires a certain amount of skill and experience for you to be able to say that you're a professional um, beta reader or editor. You really have to have this body of work to be able to say that. So, but how do you start? May question ba dyan? um, baka off topic na, but but when you start, when if you want to start in this career and be like, a professional editor or beta reader, someday you have to start reading a lot of books in the genre, or um in the genre that you want to work in. Siguro, oy, si Thor. Siguro you start with something that, with the genre that interests you most, that you enjoy reading the most. So, ayun. And then if you're an author, um, looking for these people, halimbawa, because, sometimes naman we don't have budget for hiring professionals, no? And so you tend to look at, certain people who can offer services na mas mababa yung rates. So, tingnan mo pa rin what they've worked on in the past. Try not to um, hire someone na completely walang experience and yung nag-volunteer lang na, magaling ako mag-English. Kaya ko yun. Yun.
Thank you. That's that's a lot.
Sorry.
Dadagdag ko lang. Yeah. Okay. So to also answer the question, what should an author consider when looking for a beta reader or an editor? I've worked with people, at least yung people who are new to romance class, and then that's something they ask. Like we would do events kasi twice a year, yung April Feels Day and Feels Fest, and then usually that means you get to launch your book if you have a book ready. And then when someone has a book ready and then they want to launch it at the event, they ask, what happens next? And then I say you have to get your manuscript edited, and then the editor might actually say, napa-beta read na ba to? So, and that's when an author starts to discover that, okay, I need to put this team together. And actually, it's okay to start with new people. Hi, Ben. Glad to see you here. I missed the event too,
Hey,
and we miss
Ben.
you. May moment to say hi to Ben. So yun, it's okay. Even I think as you go on through like writing books, you will find your team, and ideally it's people who worked on more books than just the one. But since na bring up ni Layla at the beginning na we actually worked on something together, and that can be if someone wants to be if someone is a new author and you have a friend who wants to start beta reading or editing, you can sort of do that secret project together and agree essentially na, okay, this is something new, we're trying this together, let's learn as much as we can, uh, and then learn as we go. So yun, that's how we started. We started with one book. We saw the response. We worked on another book. We worked on another book, and then Layla started working on other books by other authors because they were liking her work for me and for other people. So it just starts with that. So I've actually done that with people who approach me and say they want to start editing, or this is how they want to start. Maybe they don't want to be an author, maybe they want to be a beta reader, and yeah, so there's you can offer, but you have to tell the author that this is your first time and you're learning, and somebody will actually be able to help you now. Okay, this is what you should do, this is what you should focus on, and then as you read more, uh, and you do more of this. And then, ang maganda pa, when the book is released, you get to see the reaction to something that is partially your work. Because maybe you commented on something as a beta reader, and then the author changed it, and then you see the reaction because it's because of you. You reacted to it a certain way, and then gave the author the hint that, maybe this should be longer, or maybe this should be maybe this should be more painful or etc.
Maybe there should
Diba?
be
This,
heat level 3, ganon.
yeah,
Yeah.
ganon.
It's not always seen, you know?
Parang kulang, ganon. I mean,
More,
those
more
you,
Malandi.
so I think if you're starting out as a beta reader or an editor, pay attention to how readers respond to the book after. If, for example, you worked on a project, kasi you'll learn what you did that made an impact sa readers. And then everything comes in na yung when you look at books, and then when people look at books and see the acknowledgement page and see the team that worked on it, it's because they loved it enough to see na, hey, I love this, who made it, and you're part of that if you're if you're the beta reader. So ideally we create that environment that you can also be part of even if you're just starting. Yon. So that was the last question. Thank you. At least for the prepared program, I think
Can I
we can go
add?
to the. Oh, sure,
Can
sure.
I
Before we go to the Q&A, kasi I'm seeing questions in the chat that we should
add?
answer. May mga questions for you. But yes, please add
Okay.
your thing,
So,
Layla.
if you're starting, no, the best siguro thing that you have to do is you have to be willing to learn from the author, and also from your fellow editors or beta readers. So sayang lang, before the pandemic, we were planning a parang workshop, an alignment workshop with fellow editors. Kaso hindi natuloy. So hopefully in the future we will be able to do that. Because we already have a community of editors for romance class, and we wanted sana to be able to align our, you know, our working principles, para there's, because romance class is getting bigger, and there are more authors and there are more books, and we're getting um, offers for things, secret offers for secret projects. So we felt that we need to be at a certain level of um, uh, a certain standard for it. So hopefully that will happen even in this situation. So ayun.
Yes. Standardization and
Yeah.
alignment.
Paninis won't stop us. Don't let the panini stop you.
Yeah. We'll
But
do that.
it's truly been really helpful kasi the way that editors parang communicate with each other, it's almost like you're getting, if somebody learned something, diba, based on a book that they did, and then you work with someone that they actually, who would actually help them out na parang, hey, this is like especially as we started doing books that are more diverse, yung about other things now, and you have individual editors and beta readers working on it, and then they can sort of sound off na ito yung nangyari, ito yung ito yung nangyari when we worked on this. So so it's now a pool of knowledge and resources that we can, and everyone's sharing naman. So it's good. It's almost like you get the knowledge of everyone else because everyone's helping each other. Oh my god. Manual style.
Yes.
So, parang madali kung magganyan na lang. Pero I mean, it's something I've resisted like enforcing in any way na parang there should not be just one way to do this, but my gosh, sometimes, diba, like some things,
We really need it.
sometimes some things are like
Yes.
it could have been, diba, like sometimes an editor who's worked on several books would have caught it or pointed it out, but this is how we learn. this is this is how we learn about things. So let's do the Q&A. Tara, our director, can you give us some questions? From Kat. Hi, Kat. Can you edit two stories at the same time? Edit. Okay, edit.
Edit.
Can you edit two stories? The people who
Um,
edit, can you edit two at the same time?
if it's in one anthology, I've done it for RX Landian. It has to be connected somehow kasi magulo eh. It's confusing if you're like working on two different things at the same time. You have to keep track of certain things and you can't have it all jumbling in your head. So if it's in the same universe, like in the same anthology, ayan, I've done it for Alta, for RX Sandian. So, ayun, kaya. But then if it's two completely different things, pila.
That's why there's a pila. That's true.
A
Yeah,
schedule, yes.
exactly.
And the schedule. Next question. I'm from Denise. Hi, Denise. I'm curious about how different editing a novella is from editing a collection of poetry. Please share insights that you have. Thank you. Yes,
Oh my God.
ikaw
Okay.
uli.
Ako ba
Go.
ulit? Paano ako nga ulit? Ayun. So, novellas, which is what I've been doing for romance class. And the first one that I did was for Don Lanusa, yung poetry collection niya, which eventually did really, really well. Hi, Don. Um, how different it is? Is it, well, so novella, you just have one story kasi, or one like big narrative. For poetry, it can be uh, several different narratives or several strains, parang ganon. But specifically for the last time I'll write about you, hi Don. What I did was um, print out all the poems because when Don gave it to me, it's just a jumbled collection of verses, no, of poems, of different poems, and then I printed them out one poem per piece of paper and tried to make like a sort of narrative for it, like so it flows logically, like there's a journey um, that's being made throughout the collection. And then we also weeded out like some things that are probably not gonna be the right fit for that collection. So it's different because you're looking at, because you're not editing the poem like per se, because that's poetry. I mean, you can suggest like different words, different phrasing, but essentially that's it. Um, but what I did for Don's poetry collections is help out with how things are sequenced and how it flows. Also the groupings per chapter. Um, we figured out what we wanted to show in that collection and in the other collections of hers after that. So yun. I hope I answered your question, Denise.
Thank you. Does anyone have anything to add about uh, doing
Kilig.
romance novellas and also poetry? Okay.
Ang hirap ng poetry kasi it's another mountain to climb.
Completely
Especially
different,
if you,
ano.
'di ba, if you don't read enough of it, mahirapan ka talagang mag-edit or understand what it is you have to do. Kasi
Right.
poetry takes on so many different structures and you cannot say that itong verse na to ay mali. Kasi it can work for so many readers, so many publishers, and I think that's the beauty of editing poetry. You can get away with so many things and just say that's poetry, my dear. So so parang okay, let's just do it. Go click that publish button. But there, I think it really has to do with something with the way you consume poetry. You need to read a lot of it to understand the flow, the cadence, the rhythm. Kunyari ako, napaka-elementary ng knowledge ko about poetry, but I'm also like learning from other poets. I read Dawn, I read Layla. So within the romance class community, I read other poets because you need to understand for you to be able to at least beta read or progress onto editing. Kasi parang pag merong nga mag-approach na, nag-edit ka ba ng poetry? Ay, hindi ako nagbabasa ng poetry. Sasabihin ko na lang ng ganun kasi it's so hard. It's very difficult. So, ang galing-galing ni Layla. And I think also one thing na makakatulong, you should always refer to your editor friends and be transparent about what you know and what you don't know. And be confident about what you do know, because especially if you're working hard naman to learn and to absorb new things. Lalo ngayon on book Twitter, sobrang daming ganap every time I open it. Wow, may makikita pa pala ako sa book Twitter, hindi lang BTS.
Oh, hi!
Hindi lang puro BTS stuff. So, yun. Basically, that's it. Period.
She said it. She said it all.
And just to add to that, like if you end up yung in the situation that I mentioned earlier, na for example, maybe you're new as an author and your beta reader and editor they're also new because you're discovering something new together and you're trying to learn also together, and you've self-published, please know that you can release new editions. You can, if you discover that something did not work, you can fix it. You can release a new edition. You can explain why with a new cover, with an author's note. You don't have to. I think yung important thing here, since we're all learning and we all like gipit ang budget nating lahat, and we're all sort of working on each other's generosity and of time and of and attention.
Right.
Sometimes sometimes we're not as knowledgeable about something, but we're willing to learn. And if we find out that there's something in the book we need to change, we can change it. If you're self-publishing, I think maybe when you're not self-publishing, it's harder to get that done. But we've done that in romance class. May precedent tayo na, this is no longer a thing we're behind. We can change it. We've done that. So I actually recommend it. So okay lang na mag-learn and grow. Okay lang. Next question.
Have been made and corrected.
Hi, Rowan. Hello, is it okay to have 2 or more beta readers? Thanks. Sasagot na ako, yes. Yes, it's okay.
You've done that.
I actually, we've yung joke recommendation ko, but not really a joke, sa romance classes have 3. Parang American Idol panel. Pero ang tagal na nun, my gosh, hindi na uso.
Yeah.
It's
What's
nice.
that?
It's
Google.
what's American Idol?
What's American Idol?
I would recommend at least 2. Yeah, at least 2. And people who are kind of different in how they approach things. Yung they're not exactly the same kind of reader. Maybe somebody represents the audience more, or yung target audience mo, and then maybe somebody else represents the character naman. Parang ganon. Like choose. That's my recommendation. Parang choose based on what it is. Choose 2 or more. Yung more, ang hirap kasi, 'di ba? Like in this time of daming stress, Oo. Ang hirap mag-require pa ng people who are ang hirap humingi ng favor sa ibang
Right.
tao. Like kasi
Mhm.
mahirap. So
Yeah.
ang
Energy.
mangyayari kung hindi nila kaya next person. Hindi nila kaya next person. It might happen to you that you might end up contacting five people anyway just to be able to get the number of parang just to get the opinions that you need. And then yung isa kong trick is pwedeng hindi yung buong libro yung hihingan mo ng comments on. So
Mhm.
so if you want an opinion on something very specific like a job or like a situation, maybe just have them read the scene with that situation or with that or with that character. And then just ikwento nyo na lang yung context. Just, just to make sure that you get the opinion, even if someone has no time to read like a 40,000 word manuscript, baka
Yeah.
mahirap yun at this time. Yun. Does anyone else have other advice about that?
May ano ko, I think a lot of I think this question has come up with in connection to getting two or more beta readers is what if their comments are contradicting? Paano kaya yun? I mean, as an author, how do you how do how,
Showdown. Oh, fight to
parang
the...
Who has the better
how do you
opinion?
determine which one to follow? Like, who do you listen to, diba? Parang ganon.
Dance off. Dapat may
Yeah.
dance off.
Dance off
Rock
muna.
off, ganyan.
Sino
Rock
yung mas
battle.
magaling? Oo.
Oo. So, kayo as an author, how do you
Oh,
deal with that?
Binalik yung tanong.
Tanong?
sige, may sagot ako for that. You choose, what you do is, okay, it's different kasi if you have a publisher, uh, okay, as someone who self-publishes, so I actually ultimately have control over it. Ako yung pipili kung sino yung susundin ko. So, and then that becomes a business decision for me, not necessarily an emotional decision, because yes, it's great if everybody agrees na this was on every single thing. Na this part was kilig, this part was the best. I
Mhm.
love this part. But if the comments are completely contradictory, that's true. And then people in the comments are saying choose your favorite friend, choose your
Which
Grabe
friendship would you like to
friendship.
destroy today? Choose.
So I think ang mangyayari, it becomes now a personal decision that either what's best for the story, is it this opinion or this opinion. And ako, I'm rarely emotional. At that stage, pag may feedback na ganon, I'm rarely making an emotional decision. What I'm making is a business decision. So
Right.
if it progresses in this way, based on this feedback, what is the likely parang result uh,
Mhm.
on the publication, yung affect sa readers, what kind of readers will support it? Kasi yun pag diverging yung opinions, di ba, ang mangyayari, you please a certain group of people with this
Mhm.
direction, and you please another group of people with this direction. So you end up deciding who do you want supporting this book, this group or this group. Yun yung mangyayari. And actually, it's great if you have that. If it really is a story that has the potential to be parang to divide your audience, you actually want to see that reflected in the comments before you publish that there was some sort of debate,
Different
and then
opinion.
pipili ka na lang kung sino yung gusto mong parang kung sino yung papanigan mo. And then you have to live with it, yun. So if if you were hoping to get rid of accountability by saying that the beta readers kasi said, don't do that. it's ultimately your decision, and you must be accountable for it when you decide that this is the direction you'll take. Yun.
No, tsaka you're right actually that it is ultimately a business choice with regard to kung sino ba talaga yung gusto mong kausapin with this book. And sometimes and people can tell when you don't exactly stand by a particular choice you made in a book. Sa self-pub, you can change it, pero pag trad pub, it's not as easy, I guess. And
Oh,
people notice, like, they can tell when you're not completely happy with what you did. Yun. Anyway, that's the tea
oh,
for tonight, I guess. Yeah,
oh,
Thank
in
you,
the
Tito
comment,
Carla.
Don is saying
May I
it's your
just
book,
add?
sis. And it's right! She's so right! It's your book!
It's your
Parang,
book.
True.
which friend is right?
You're responsible for it.
Yeah!
Still your
wait,
name
that
on
That's
the
my
what I
side.
comment.
always say then. I sorry. That's what I always say then to the people I work with. My comments are just suggestions in general. I know you pay me, but you can just, freebie na lang yung pera sa akin. Do whatever you want with the comments. Like,
That's
pero
true.
I remind them that we editors and beta readers provide these comments for your book to be better, because this is how we've helped other books succeed. So
Mhm.
we kind of have an idea. We're not saying we're right, but we kind of have an idea what makes books successful. So we try to help you do that as well. But then they are free, but they are free to take or leave. But then they also have to remind themselves, sabi nga ni Mina na, kung hindi man business decision, you also have to go back to your why. Why are you writing this story? Like if you get to answer pala the previous question, I think that how many beta readers you should get. I remember Ben saying, we were talking about this years ago. Hi Ben, nandiyan ka pa ba? Baka na lip sync for his life. Pero we were talking about how many beta readers should we get for our story, and he was telling me you should just get the enough amount bang tao, enough number. So because the tendency is that you want to accommodate
Mm.
everyone's comments, and it's up to you. Mina kasi she's so good at ayun, emotionally distancing herself. But what about the younger writers
Scorpio.
na
Oh
correct?
my
Scorpio thing.
gosh.
So bilang Libra ako, so yun, inject natin ng balance. Inject ang balance that you also have to remind them na, oh, bakit mo ba sinusulat yung story na to? Which
Mhm.
comment or feedback is most applicable to the progression or parang benefit of your story. So you have to not just for yung benefit of the reader, but also for your benefit, because you have to be happy with the story that you put out. Ayun, sumagot si Ben. Hey!
That's true. So yung comment na how to be emotionally distant. Okay, sorry. So that's me doing this
Business Scorpio
kasi
move.
nga oo, may pagka ruthless ba. Pero
Grabe.
no, but but the way kasi that I work is at least by the time na you've written the manuscript, you've self-edited it, you've sent it out to several beta readers, you've read their comments, you're preparing your revisions, parang you might actually get some distance by that point
Right.
because it's work mode eh. Parang nasa work mode ka ngayon, especially if parang the feedback is critique na this would be better if ganyan. So yan yung medyo okay, parang you're kind of you have another hat on, which is almost like mechanic or whatever. Parang you're in fixing mode. So, but yes, it's good to remind yourself na what would actually make you happy. What direction of story based on uh based on what how people reacted that would make you happy with the book. That's right. Kasi once it's out into the world, and I say that you can revise, yes, but still, diba, there's a version of the book out there that you have to be happy with. Yung that you have to have pride in it when you see people reading it, especially if people love it, diba? Kasi I do find it weird if diba people actually don't like the book that was released and then people love it, diba? how do we feel about that when a reader
Why
loves a
would
book that we were
you?
kind of like not not
Ganun-ganun lang.
so, yeah, that we were not
Yeah.
so into. Ideally, we get to a stage where we really love anything that we release.
Yeah.
And ano, yon.
Diba? You have to believe in your product, and that's in your book is your product. So,
And
yung
parang I
sinabi,
think it's
In your
okay,
child.
go.
uh,
Believe in your children.
I believe in your babies. Yung sinabi ni KB kanina na, ano, our comments are suggestions lang, and you can do with them what you will. But for instance, if it's specifically for romance class, like if there are certain things that we comment on that, okay, for romance class specific things, this should not be, or this should be done, or this should happen. If you disregard that, um, there's a thing we call, Mina checking up on editors and beta readers, and tell
Totoo. Oo.
and verify
Real.
if the manuscript or the book deserves to be called a romance class book. So if we say na, okay, we did edit it, but it actually, the author disregarded our comments regarding these certain things,
Okay.
and made it, like, not in line with, uh, romance class principles, ayun, we have to say that, Nina, sorry, they did not. So the romance class title is not deserved.
There.
No, but that's
This
more of a branding thing, I guess. Na
Yeah,
parang, and you're right, diba, Leila? Just because you edited it doesn't make it instantly a romance class book. And
exactly.
it's not like a comment against you. It's just it
Mhm.
is what it is, you know.
Yeah.
Um na parang it's very explicit naman in the romance class lecture handbook, guidebook, what is and what isn't considered romance class. So yeah, especially if you're, I guess we're trying to make a community here of na may readers that our readers already know what to expect to a certain
Mhm.
degree. So yeah,
Safe
I don't
environment.
parang yeah, exactly, safe environment. So um it's part of the editor's job also to say na well, maybe your book is not safe for this environment, but you still work on it anyway. So,
Yeah.
yun.
I mean, you can write whatever you want to write. That's
Right.
the thing. But,
Right.
you know,
So ano
yeah.
lang, to recap lang, yung ano, so the guidelines are, uh, the characters have agency, relationships depict consent, and
Mhm.
happy endings. Yon. Those are, so
Safe.
sometimes nga, sometimes the manuscript will not have certain elements, and then the beta readers and editors will tell the
Yeah.
author that, and because many times the author is self-publishing, the author gets to decide if they revise it
Mhm.
or not, and yun, so may ganon. And yeah, do we have other questions? Oh, from Kat, when
Oh,
an author rejects a suggestion, where do you draw the line between being okay with it and really wanting the author to make the change? Sort of related to to what we were
first,
talking about.
yeah.
Si Layla,
Yeah.
dagdagan daw invoice.
Yeah.
Char.
No, it
No,
Ayaw
depends.
mo?
please, ma'am.
It depends really, if, if you're what you're after. Like, if you're after a certain thing, then okay, just communicate with your editor, or your, with your editor, that, okay, this is why it needs to be this way, and, okay, and then you work with, because it's important talaga. That's why it's important for your editor to understand what you're going for, what you want to achieve with your manuscript, with your book. So ayun. Yes, Jella.
This exactly.
There
Yep.
there are certain things that we want to keep, to to normalize. There are certain ideas that we wanna perpetuate, and in romance class we get to do that. And if you're trying to um, get inside the community and get the support from the community, um, you have to abide by those rules.
And if the story that you wanna tell involves things that are parang something that your beta reader editor will say, this is not romance. It's
Mm-hmm.
not suddenly like, oh, I have to change it because it
Right.
has to be romance. It never has to be
No,
It doesn't
no,
have to be.
it doesn't have to
Oo.
be. I mean, we can
It's
still
just
support the books that are not romance class.
uh,
But you
what
know,
you did is you self-published a romance book, and that's great.
mhm,
That's okay. It's just good to be able to talk to your editor and beta reader and be clear that this is a thing that you're exploring and
right.
doing. And when they give you feedback, then they know that okay, like this handles a certain topic in a certain way that's not that that's different, and
Mhm.
at least the author can proceed from there. Yun. Yeah, but ako naman as an author, I have rejected editor suggestions,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and the thing is, I take the responsibility for it. So that's exactly it. Especially if you see nga in the reviews or in feedback that the way that the editor suggested it might have been the better way, then
Mhm.
that's on me. I learn na, oops, oops,
My
sana pala
bad.
sinunod ko yung editor ko. Parang ganon. Or sometimes I make a call and I can tell that it's the better call. So
Mhm.
yun, it's really just if you're the author and you're self-publishing, it's really taking responsibility for it when you disagree, when you reject a suggestion. Yeah.
Bihira lang naman
Any
yan that you disagree. If you're working with a team that already knows, you know,
Yeah,
your
yeah.
your
Your tendencies.
It's
yeah,
okay
your
to
vibe.
make
Wait.
mistakes. Lahat
Yeah,
naman
yeah.
tayo.
It's okay to disagree with your editor,
Yeah, it's
pero
okay.
syempre, you hired them for a reason because
Mhm.
of course you respect like their opinion and what they know of your work. So parang and it's something that you can discuss naman din with your editor na parang okay, I didn't do this kasi ganito. Not necessary, pero like at the end of the day it's your book, 'di ba? And
Mhm.
tama si Mina,
Yeah.
you take responsibility for your own
Yeah,
book.
absolutely.
It's your name in front,
But
girl, not your
but
editor.
then like your team does not want to see you fail because it's
Right.
also their name on the acknowledgments page, diba? So they just have your best interests at heart.
At
But
heart, yeah.
it's ultimately your decision.
Yeah.
Yes.
Whatever you want
Yeah.
to
They're
decide
only
to
doing it
do.
because they love you.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's for your own
Do we have
good
more
sometimes.
questions? Oh, for editing. Hi, Kat. For editing naman, how hard is it to hold back from editing a super bad line? Oh, editors.
Yes, Layla.
Line.
Have I ever held back?
True.
Okay,
Because that's your
maybe
True.
job.
not bad. No, maybe not bad. I think the most discussions that we've had is how do you edit something for more clarity versus
Mm.
this is something that the author would say in their voice. Parang this is their voice. And yes, it's medyo different.
Mhm.
Uh so yun, that's something we've had discussions about. Na do you edit someone for clarity but sacrifice what makes it them, parang ganon. And that is hard.
Yeah.
And minsan may but ako I tend to if that conversation ever falls on parang if I'm ever part of that conversation, I always say let it be unclear. Let's parang do X amount,
Mhm.
do X amount
Yeah.
just so we're all on board. But
Mhm.
if makakalusot, let let the author's voice remain, parang
Yeah.
ganon, as much as
Yeah.
possible. But do enough, whatever that means, do enough so that the reader doesn't let go. Kasi 'di ba baka yung again, I'm hesitating to say it's bad writing. It's not bad
No, hindi
writing.
naman
It's
bad writing. It's just,
at least yung well, the kind of writing we deal with on a daily basis, diba?
Mhm.
It's not bad. It's just
Yeah.
like
it
how do
can be
you
improved, or
Yeah.
how do you
certain
make it
people.
so the reader doesn't let go? Parang ganon. But it's
Yeah.
always like it's always fun when someone has a very distinctive voice and then the editor just, hold parang cushion uh it, or yung parang cushion the editing. It's ang hirap i-explain. But you can see it though if you read enough. Yun yung gusto ko actually with our books is I can actually you can
Yung
even
voice.
if we follow the same editorial guidelines, even if we work with the same beta readers and editors, diba, the authors are writing in a different way and have different styles. And yun, there's a way to let an author remain who they are.
Mhm.
But yeah,
I only ever like redline things when it's just against grammar, or like to make things clearer, or parang um what's that, continuity, ganon. So it's nothing really like, no, pangit yung sinulat mo.
I
It's not
agree.
bad. It's not bad. Nothing is, well.
Yeah. I think the question then ni Kat is vague. Like, what is super bad? So, yun yung unang question doon.
Minsan
What
kasi
is super bad? Wow,
well,
inedit yung question.
definitely
inedit ko kay
definitely rewrite it kung bad. Pero
Oo.
Ayun.
I'm guessing in other I'm guessing in other spaces there might actually be actual bad writing and
Yeah.
and that is that does become an editor's problem. I don't think editors should completely rewrite authors. I think they should take steps so that you don't end up working on something that's that badly written. Yun.
Yeah.
Oh, but
I
I
think it
have.
helps when I think it helps when you add suggestions. Like if there's a bad line,
Yeah.
ewan ko, dahil nga libra ako, so merong balance na, okay, bad to, pero I have to, wait lang, tama ba tong perspective ko? So meron akong dala-dalawa. So I just try to suggest something that might be better, that can also work. Parang, do you think this might work? Do you think this is okay? Pero parang, you're leading them into, you should change it.
Yeah,
You should
oo.
change it. So, ayun. I
Yung
think,
mga, I think it would be better. I think it would be
Yes, oo,
clear.
totoo.
I think it would be helpful if
Oo,
mga
yeah,
ganyan.
I just
Yeah.
feel like, I
So I
just
can
feel
really
like,
see their motivation. You can do this.
pero I don't think that if you have a certain relationship with your editor and the editor with the author, you won't really run into problems this problematic. Kasi you trust each other na when Layla says, or when KB, when Carla says this thing, it's because it's coming from a good place or an experienced space. So I think the author should know better than to like keep denying the changes or the revision that's being suggested. Pero yeah, iba rin naman ang writers eh. Iba-iba rin.
And next
Okay.
question, please. How do you edit and still keep the author's voice?
Kasi
Yeah.
most of the time naman, I don't rewrite the entire passage eh. Like, I put comments and say, oh, maybe
Mm.
you can do like this, or just make suggestions, but I don't expect them to follow like the verbatim what I wrote. So they still have, they still get to keep their own voice. So I don't naman rewrite the entire things, or even if like I do, it's still up to them to accept or reject the
Right.
things, and it's happened. Yeah. especially if it's a really unique voice, and if it's a very special story.
Yeah, and if you work with them, yeah,
Mhm.
it's usually like a comment annotated
Mhm.
on your document. It's not necessarily like red line
Right.
editing, completely rewriting things. It's usually like, hey, this part is unclear, maybe you should add whatever,
Mhm.
maybe, or
Yeah.
isn't it better if blah blah. And ganyan.
Mhm.
Like your
and
one
and
sentence doesn't turn into 10 sentences. It's just a
so
comment. Usually just a
Yeah.
comment.
so
Maybe,
it's
maybe.
still you when you revise as a writer. It's still you who sort of figures it out,
Yeah.
what how to convey what it is that they ask for. So as much as possible, it's still going to be you that puts it out there, and then later na yung refining.
That's what I love
Uh,
about working with authors ng romance class, the people I've worked with. Because when I tell them something, like I know they can do it. Like I can trust in them to do what needs to be done. Like okay, good. Sige,
To
'di ba? Yung
deliver.
ganun. Yeah, yeah. I tell them, oh, it needs, more steam here, or this kind of scene. Maybe we should put that there. Maybe we could develop this certain thing. And when the revised version is submitted to me, I can see it, diba? So ayun, I can see it, and it's great because I know that they can do it. Minsan kasi feel ko ang cringy ng line.
Well,
I think if that's the case, for that specific example, I think you should note that na parang sa
Mhm.
beta, is this cringy? Parang
Oo.
ganon. This
mm.
particular thing, or does
Or
this
tell your
parang,
editor, like, I'm having a problem with this
uh,
particular line or scene.
Mm.
Can you
Or
help me
this
with it?
part,
Diba?
right?
is this,
Yeah.
or is this look okay to you, or kadiri ba? Parang yun,
Mm, mm.
kadi,
Or
or
this
ganon.
sound
So,
like understandable English to you.
Tapos yung comment talaga, ew, nakalagay doon. Ew.
ew.
Yo.
Ew.
I
Tapos
think it's
no further
valid.
comments.
Yung parang yung parang instinct natin for things when we read. Sometimes kasi it's not just us being insecure. There might actually be something behind it. So don't discount it altogether.
Mhm.
Try to take note of it. Na parang, this makes me uncomfortable. Can you let me
Can you help
know?
me?
Why you
Can you
think
help
that
me with
way?
this?
What do
Right.
you think?
Oo,
Parang ganyan.
Mm.
So you
ganon.
raise those
And then,
questions.
yeah, it's
It's
worth
great.
talking to your beta reader and editor about. Okay lang yun. No. Next
Yep.
question
Um,
from Ben. How long do editors usually wait for the author to
Ano ba,
submit
Ben?
their final
Napaka-specific.
spine? Ang specific, yung acceptable number of years. Asking
Ben,
for
may
a
sinasabi ka
friend.
ba? Are you trying to
May
say
sagot
ano
something?
yung
ako.
pangalan ng friend? Bentham?
It takes as long as it needs.
Yeah.
Uh,
Whenever you're
there's
ready,
no
friend.
whenever the author is ready is when it is the right time. Pero kung si author may gustong habulin na deadline,
But,
di siya yung
ikaw na yun.
magde-decide. Siya yung magde-decide. Yung binato dun sa author. The practical answer here is there are opportunities and deadlines that you can aim for and then work backwards. Yung work on a schedule, work backwards.
Mhm.
I don't think rushing a book for whatever reason is any fun for anybody. Not
Especially si
not fun.
self-study, di ba? Siyempre, we work on our own schedule. So,
Yeah. So it's rushing is not fun for the author, not fun for the editor, not fun for the reader when they read a rushed book. So
mhm.
it's just take your time.
from now on. May statute of limitations na po tayo.
According to the Romance Class Manual of Style,
ang masasabi ko lang is, as encouragement is there are sometimes people want the book, diba? And that's why there's an author should be motivated to finish it or to get it early.
Because with interim, diba? Like we need you so much. Where's the third book?
Oo naman, kawawa naman yung mga tao kung nagplano kasi ng trilogy. Nakakainis, diba? Don't do that. I don't recommend it. Kailangan talagang dapat hinay-hinay lang pala dapat. Wag masyadong ma-schedule. Okay.
So, Bena,
supportive naman tayo.
Yeah.
Any other questions? From Jella, hi. Have you edited a book or manuscript where you had to be dissociated from the work?
Ayan na. Meron pa ba kayong isang oras? Joke lang.
Apparently, this is the last question. What a nice last
spicy
question.
one at that.
Jella!
It's quite the closer. No, the serious answer in general is yes. If you work with the editors that we work with, we actually recommend that editors also think about if they're not happy with the project. And they should be able to communicate to the author that I'm not happy with the project. Either it ends amicably, and the editor gets to say na don't credit me in this project because I'm leaving the project or I don't agree with how it turned out. So we actually advise anyone who edits or beta reads for romance class that this is an option open to you. Now you don't have to, if you're not comfortable with the project, you don't have to stay on for whatever reason. Does anyone have anything to add?
I just want to add on the other side naman, there are works or there are authors who would not credit you. So I think that's that's really
double bad.
Yeah.
How dare.
It's slightly traumatic for you, but you learn as you go, and then when you draft like your agreements or kung meron bang, when it comes to a point na meron kayong contract, you have to put that in, and then you also have to put that one that Nina said and Layla and Carla agreed to na if you don't want to be associated with the work at any point dun sa inyong process, then might as well include that. Para both of you have fair rights and both of you are happy with the output that comes out and which will be read by many people hopefully. So yun.
Nangyari na rin sa akin before na I've had to beta read a book and I don't want to say because of my comments or what, hindi na natuloy yung book. Not exactly the same thing. Pero
Carla, anong sinabi mo? Nako, nag-give up na tuloy.
They had guide questions. I just answered the guide questions.
Pero diba, that's the thing then with authors, sometimes they would demand. They would, sometimes sa email nila, they would put it in bold caps na be brutal about it. And then when you actually give like the most honest and raw comments and oh my God, asan na kayo? No replies for like 1 month. Nasaktan ko yung feelings nyo.
Pero mo na lang from someone else. Ay, ayaw na niya.
Pero that's also her right, her choice then. But it would be better to have the courtesy to communicate with the person you work with. Kasi big world, also small world, will always bump into one another and will always need help from one another. So, ayun, I think, bottom line, I be kind. So Miss Universe
Yes.
from astrology to
And
ano,
universe
lahat.
answer is
Nangyari na
Yeah,
rin
be
yun sa akin.
respectful.
yes.
Thank
So,
you. I think so yun, I think that's all the time that we have. Ganun.
Ay,
huwag niyo bigyan ng chance si Layla.
Hindi, ano yun? Does anyone have anything else to add about this particular question? And then we'll close
the
na our
thing,
Q&A.
the thing why it's important for you to do that when you feel like you have to do that is because it's also part of your body of work as a professional. So people will look at it, ay, part ka pala ng team na to. Pero, alam mo yun? So it also
Ba't
reflects
ganun yung
on
tono?
you. Basta,
Oh,
naman
but it's valid because we get a lot of scrutiny and judgment as
Yeah.
self-publishers, as romance
Right.
authors, as Filipino authors. There's
Oh,
so
yeah.
much parang right off the like starting out, there's really a lot of scrutiny, or like there's a lot of parang already thinking that you're not a certain level of
Mhm.
professional.
Right.
So it is important to have these things in place so that you can control uh when your name is being used in things, what you're being associated with as part of your body
Yeah.
of work. Yon.
Exactly. Yun. Ditto. Thanks, Prof.
Thanks, thanks, thanks. Yeah. uh, so before I forget, because it's almost 2 hours, so we're going to wrap up now. Thank you for commiserating with those feelings. Marami tayong feelings. But yeah, so just before we go, I just wanted to say thank you for coming to the session. A reminder that Kilig Cafe is the thing that we're doing. Na parang tambay tayo, let's have coffee or whatever beverage you want. And let's talk about stuff. Let's feature authors. And we have a sprint. So this is a thing I'm doing. It's me on Wednesday morning, 9 a.m. I am writing my current work in progress, and you are free to join me. It's 1 hour of me streaming and writing. And sometimes people join and they're just like waking up or having coffee or just saying hi. You don't have to
Yeah.
write all the time, but I will. So yun yung thing that I committed to do. I'm going to be writing during these sprints, and you're free to join me. So let's do that thing na parang tatambay tayo sa cafe and we're writing together. There's we also just announced a Field Fest 2021, October 23. Uh, we have stuff to announce and launch. That's nice. That's nice to be able to do that at a time like this. So we're thank you so much to those who joined. Of course, you can
Thank you.
this was just a panel to talk about how important data reading and editing is, and to in case you didn't know the kind of work that they do as data readers and editors, so you know what Carla, KB, and Layla do. We'll have here how they can be. Before we go, I'm going to have them tell us how they can be contacted if you have any questions for them, or if you want them to spill more tea. And but yes, but this is important to us, and this is something that you can probably replicate even if you're not writing romance, or if you're not writing a romance class book. So thank you, Carla, KB, and Layla. Thank you, everybody. So this is
Thank
their contact info.
you.
So ayan pala yung contact info nila. They don't need to Ayan na. So, thank you so much. And I hope you all have a happy weekend, rest of the weekend, and see you soon.
See you guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.